All right, for part 2 of lesson 2, we are going to be looking at ratio tables. So we're still looking at word problems that involve ratios, and we're still going to be solving using proportions. It's just a slightly different beginning setup. So we're using what we call equivalent ratios, which are ratios that simplify to the same ratio, or they are like equivalent fractions. So how to find equivalent ratios? Step 1 is we start each proportion with the full ratio given in the table. Then step 2 is we fill in the second ratio with one of the unknown ratios and solve. So example 1. Miss Krippinger can type 390 words in 5 minutes. Complete the table with equivalent ratios. So what we're looking for when we say that we are looking for this full ratio that's given in the table, what I mean to say is we have 2 units. We have minutes and words. We don't have anything here. We do have a number here. We do have a number here. We don't have anything here. We have a number. We have a number. So this right here is our full ratio. It gives us both numbers on top and bottom. So we've kind of set up the basics of the proportion for you here. The 2 units that we are comparing, I'm going to keep in the same order here. I'm just going to write the first letter. So M for minutes, W for words. And I'm going to do that for both of these example proportions because it's going to be the same. So this initial ratio that's given, that's going to be the first ratio here. So we have 5 minutes on top, and we have 390 words on the bottom. So my initial ratio here is also going to be 5 minutes on top, 390 words on the bottom. Now we have 2 different empty spaces. That's why we have 2 different proportions here that we're going to solve. For this column 1, I'm just going to do this first unknown. We don't know the minutes that's on top. We are given 624 words. Words went on the bottom, so 624 goes on the bottom. Which means we are solving for this unknown spot. Now we have a proportion that we can solve. So I'm going to take my 2 diagonals, and we're going to multiply. The diagonal that has 2 numbers in it is this yellow diagonal here, the 5 and the 624. So I'm going to multiply 5 times 624, which equals 3,120. And then we divide by the number that's in the same diagonal as the variable. This pink diagonal has our variable x. We're going to divide by that number in that diagonal, which is 390. What does that equal? When I divide, I get 8. What were we solving for? The unknown, the blank space here, 8, was referring to minutes. All right, column 2 here. So we already set up our initial ratio, which was 5 minutes, 390 words. It was the same as this one here. For the second part, we're looking at what was given in this second unknown column here. We are given 9, which is referring to minutes. It's going on top. We match that up with minutes, which means we are solving for this bottom value here. Now that I have that set up, I'm going to highlight my diagonals, and we're going to solve. The diagonal that has 2 numbers in it is this pink diagonal. It has 390 and 9. So we're going to start by multiplying 390 by 9, which equals 3,510. Then we are dividing by the number in the same diagonal as the variable. So this yellow diagonal has the variable. We're going to divide by that number 5, and I get 702. What were we solving for? X was on the bottom, which is W. That's talking about words. 702 words. Or let's try another example. The flash can run 20 meters in 4 seconds. Complete the table with the equivalent ratios. So the first one we set up the proportion for you, this one we didn't, so I'm going to set up a blank proportion for both of these. The two units we are comparing are seconds and meters, so I'm going to label it seconds, meters, seconds, meters. And the initial ratio that gives us both values, not here because there's a blank, not here because there's a blank, but here both numbers are filled in. The 4 is on top, that's talking about seconds. The 20 is on the bottom, which is talking about meters. So both of my initial ratios are going to be 4/20. Now we can go ahead and fill in the rest of our proportion so we can solve. This first column, I'm going to do my work over here. The number 34 is on the bottom. It's referring to meters, so I'm going to match it up with meters on the bottom here, which means we are solving for seconds. I'm going to highlight my diagonals and solve. The diagonal that has 2 numbers in it is this yellow diagonal here. So I'm going to multiply 4 times 34, which equals 136. And I'm going to divide by the number in the same diagonal as the variable. So dividing by 20. When I do that, I get about 6.8. What were we solving for? This top part here, which is seconds. So 6.8 seconds. All right, over here, plugging in, the 62 is on the bottom. That was meters, so I'm going to put it on the bottom to match up with meters here. Our unknown is the seconds. So I'm going to highlight my diagonals to solve. So I'm going to multiply. The diagonal that has 2 numbers in it is this yellow diagonal here, 4 and 62. 4 times 62 is 248. I'm dividing by the number that's in the same diagonal as the variable, this pink diagonal here. Divide that by 20, and you get 12.4. So this blank here is 12.4. That's referring to seconds. Let's look at one more table that instead of being horizontal is going to be vertical. It costs $21 for 3 t-shirts. Complete the table with equivalent ratios. So again, I'm going to set up my blank proportion for both of these. We are comparing t-shirts, so I'm just going to put T for t-shirts, and cost, we're talking about money, so I'm going to put the $sign. So t-shirt, $sign. The initial ratio, we don't have 2 values here, we don't have 2 values here, we do have 2 values right here. So the 3 and 21. 3 is talking about t-shirts, so I'm going to put that on the top. 21 is talking about the cost, so I'm going to put that on the bottom. So both of my initial ratios is 3/21. Now we're going to fill in the rest to solve. So this first column, our first row, I'm going to do right here. 2 is talking about t-shirts. The cost is unknown. So that 2 for t-shirts matches up with the t-shirts on top. We are solving for the cost. I'm going to highlight my diagonals and solve. The diagonal with 2 values in it is the pink, 21 and 2. So I'm going to do 21 times 2, which is 42, and I'm going to divide by the number in the same diagonal as the variable. So divide by 3, and I get 14. What were we solving for? We were solving for the cost. So $14. Last one here. This next column, the 168, is matching up with the cost. So we're going to match it up with the cost here. 168 for the cost on the bottom, which means we are solving for the t-shirts. Alright, so the diagonal that has two numbers in it is this yellow diagonal here. 3 times 168 equals 504, dividing by the number in the same diagonal as the variable, dividing by 21, and we get 24. So we were solving for the t-shirts. 24 t-shirts. And that's it.